Okay. So, how do you use light in your storytelling through the photos that you take?
Oh, gosh. Well, I light a lot of my own stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. You got to have light to have a photograph. So there's always the presence of light. Um, I don't know. You, I would say that I've spent a lot of time looking at it and documenting it
Hmm.
and knowing like types of light that I like. And but now that I really think about it, there isn't any light that I think is bad. So
Hmm.
it's really like what's appropriate. And sometimes it's like whatever it is that's available. But I tend to I love light that spotlights things. Um, if I'm doing portraiture work, I love things that like really, put subject matter front and center.
Hmm.
Um, and that's really tough because it's such a like a case by case situation. And also too, I've changed so much through the years and like how I light things. I used to be, do a lot of lighting and look for a lot of lighting that was like really hard, contrasty, created like really hard shadows. And these days I kind of go for stuff that's like way softer, way and looks way more natural. It's almost like I've kind of progressed back to like where I started, because
Hmm.
when I first started lighting a lot of things on my own, I went for a certain kind of extreme, and now I've kind of circled back to like where I started. But I think a lot of it's just like kind of having like a lot of tools at your arts, at your disposal. And it's like what feels right. Like, what's the mood I'm going for.
Hmm.
So does that answer your question? Yeah,
That fully answers it.
that's really tough because it's like such a kind of like game time decision sometimes.
Hmm.
And also kind of based on like and what am I trying to say? So
Yeah. That is, I think that fully covers it because I was looking through your photos and you can tell like the different lightings of how you want the picture to feel, like the emotions that you want it to give off.
yeah, and sometimes I don't have a choice. I got to work with what's just there.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
then, and hopefully be able to kind of move around in the space and find the light. But sometimes I don't even have that option. Sometimes it's like we're just getting what we're getting. And yeah.
That is incredibly cool. Um, so can you tell me about the project that you did with Disney Plus, if you're allowed to talk about it?
Um, oh, just the show, Just Beyond.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah, that came out a while ago. You remember Goosebumps?
Hmm. Hmm.
So R.L. Stein, it was a anthology series based on his series called Just Beyond. Um, I actually worked on that with another photographer. He did some episodes and I did some episodes.
Hmm.
And honestly, like I haven't watched it. So I know, that is basically like a young adult horror story. Did you watch it?
I have not watched it.
Okay, so I know it's a young adult horror story. I mean, that it I did it. You know what I mean? Like it feels like so long ago.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of times those productions are just kind of like go go go, and because I didn't watch any of the stuff that I shot for it. I mean, I remember getting to take some really cool iconic shots from it. Um, but the gist of it is like it was summer 2021, and we were still kind of deep in the like pandemic stuff. So you know, the a lot of the intimacy of working on a film set got really like annihilated because of that. Because a lot of times my job will, involve me like working with the actors, in between scenes, doing setups, things like that. But
Uh-huh.
when when we first came back from the pandemic, there was like a lot of layers in between crew and cast. Because like if crew gets sick, we're replaceable. Cast gets sick, they're
There's an
not.
issue.
Yeah, there's a real issue. We have to stop working. I
Mhm.
mean, and also too with crew, it could have caused, meant that we stopped working because based on how they contact traced it. But because of that, like, very early on, a lot of the access that I was used to kind of having working with cast was denied. So, that that was one of the first ones back from all that, and like it was very limiting. Like, the amount of stuff I could do was really really limited.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a few interesting things. I mean, I put a few of those pieces up on my portfolio, like the stuff that they used for like all the advertising art from it. But uh yeah, I just remember that show being like, associated with like the tough days of COVID.
Hmm.
So, I mean, and also, a lot of that stuff starts running together too. I know that sounds
Yeah.
bad. You're just like, oh, that one. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Um, so, jeez. So, um, so it is that, so every episode I ask a dinner party question,
okay.
and this is what I use in like my trailers and stuff. So you're invited to a costume contest. The prize is dinner with your favorite celebrity. What are you going to dress up as to make sure you win, and who are you having dinner with?
Okay. Wait, I have to wear a costume.
Yes, so it's a costume party. It's a
Okay.
contest, and the first place prize is dinner with your favorite celebrity.
And who's this? And who do I want to eat with?
Yeah, and who's the favorite celebrity that you're having dinner with?
All right. So what am I going to dress as? I'm going to dress as Joe Strummer, and then I'm going to have dinner with Bob Dylan.
That is why Bob Dylan. I have to ask.
Because I know that it'll be weird. Because anytime I've seen an interview with him, he never really gives a straight answer. It's always just, and even to this day, he's very elusive.
Yeah.
So I would love to just have a weird, elusive conversation with Bob Dylan. I think I would ask him stupid stuff like, "Hey, Bob, how's your golf game?" Knowing that guy's probably never played golf in his life. Probably hates golf. Probably looks down on anybody who plays golf. I
Yeah.
just, and also too, I remember reading the Beastie Boys book that they
Hmm.
put out, and they told this weird story about being when they moved to LA, and they were at like Dolly Parton's birthday party, and Bob Dylan showed up, and Bob Dylan weirded them out because he was more elusive than they were. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, so because he's just, I mean, he's over my shoulder too right now. Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of any living person that would be just that. I can just see him being fascinating. Plus, I also love his music, but I don't think I'd even want to talk about his music at
Yeah.
all. I want to ask him how his golf game is.
I would love to see his answer.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be good. So yeah, but my costume would be Joe Strummer at this point.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, I put a little question box on Instagram and we have a
Okay.
few questions. So what type of camera and lenses are your favorite and why?
Oh boy. Well, so I love like my work camera. Well, they're all work cameras technically, but my one that I use on every TV show or film, my Nikon Z9 and all the accompanying lenses are just brilliant cameras. They take beautiful pictures. It never fails me. But the camera I really love is my Hasselblad because it's not as technically savvy as my
Mhm.
Nikons, but it has a soul. It sees it sees how I see.
Mhm.
It's very slow. I mean, in today's digital camera like tech world, it's kind of a dinosaur in a lot of ways. But like it takes beautiful images. Like it really feels like how I saw the scene. And that means a lot. Like the Nikon takes an awesome, technically perfect picture, but I have to come in and finesse it because it's so digital. Everything's very sharp. It's very crisp. It has a sheen that I have to kind of scrub off in post production. Where the Hasselblad comes in and it's like that's how I saw that.
Yeah.
So it's got a feeling that it's difficult to match.
Mhm.
So it's the most film-like digital camera I've ever used.
That's that's great. Personally, I love that you have your Nikon that you love, but then you also have the one that's less tech savvy,
Yeah.
is what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like if I walk out the door to just go take pictures,
Mhm.
I don't pick up the Nikons because they're
Yeah.
huge. The lenses are big. You'll see me if I wanted to do some kind of discreet street photography, you see me coming a mile away. I grab the Hasselblad
Mhm.
because it's meant for that type of work. But then also too, I can take it into the studio and it takes brilliant studio shots too. So it's a good. It has a lot of function, like the Nikon, but the Nikon is just like, man, if I can't capture motion with the Hassi, it's too slow. But that's not what it's meant for, and that's not why I bought it.
Yeah. Um, Another question we have is what was it like working with Susan Sarandon?
She was cool. That was such a fast shoot.
Mhm.
Again, it goes back to it was 2021, and she had driven down from New York.
Mhm.
We shot that like her first day on set, and she was incredibly nice, but also, there was a lot of COVID protocols that kind of made what would have in the past been a little more informal. Well, it's informal meaning like, oh, we can kind of joke and talk and whatnot. When you're I don't know 50 feet away with a camera,
Mhm.
having to give somebody directions through a mask,
It's
you know
difficult.
it's difficult. So that shoot was very like by the book. And look, she was great, but it just wasn't like how I was used to doing like those types of shoots. And a lot of it was just because it happened like during the height of COVID,
Mhm.
unfortunately. But she was great. I mean, she's a little older, so she had concerns about COVID. So on set we kind of had to keep distances and things like that. And when it comes to like doing portrait situation like that, it kind of a lot of times you want to be able to interact with your subject, but it just wasn't it wasn't we didn't get that type of interaction that I would typically have. So, but
Yeah,
she was great. Yeah.
that's great to hear though.
Yeah.
But because of all the COVID protocols, it just made it a bit more difficult. I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Very much so.
Okay, so Tom, what do
Yes.
you geek out about?
Food. I love eating it, but I also like making it. I'm right now I'm nerding out because I made this awesome like basil tahini sauce last night.
Ooh, that sounds
I
so
know.
good.
Because I was like, yeah, it's really good. So I made that to kind of like because I made a Buddha bowl with like blackened shrimp and brown rice and um watercress and black beans and but my dressing um was the green tahini sauce. So it's just basil. It's really simple too.
Yeah.
It's just basil, tahini, a little lemon juice, fresh lemon juice, chopped up 2 garlic cloves, a little salt and pepper to taste. And then I put a little like a couple drops of panola clear hot sauce in there.
Oh, that sounds
Just to,
so good.
yeah, just to kind of give it a little kick. And it's awesome. So no, I for a long time before I went down this path, I thought I was gonna work in restaurants. And
Really?
I love to cook. I like to eat. Sometimes to my own detriment. I've been working really hard to because I like to eat. But yeah, I geek out hard over food. My brother and I are always texting each other like, "This is what I made tonight," because I showed him the green sauce I made. He was like, "That looks amazing." Um, I especially like because making.
Ooh. Okay, we're good.
I like making stuff that's like it can come in a can. So
Mhm.
like things with like very like basic um ingredients and making something cool out of that. But I like food. Food is my big geek out thing. And it's one of those things I just like to do is
Yeah,
like I love cooking.
cooking
It's
is so
very
fun.
yeah, it's very meditative.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a
So
great creative outlet as well.
yeah. As I've gotten older, I've learned to really appreciate making like things like, like I really like nerded out over basil tahini sauce last night because it's a little more of a nuanced flavor of opposed to, oh yeah, I can cook a steak really well. I know how to cook meat, really
Mhm.
well. It's because like if you know how to like whip up sauces, like you start then you start being able to see the creativity in making food because
Yeah.
it's one thing to be able to like cook something in your cast iron skillet on the on the range or on the grill, but when you know how to start putting flavors together, like that's when it gets interesting, and
Mhm.
that's kind of where I am in my food journey these days.
That is incredibly interesting. That is incredible to me. Like, I love cooking. It's so fun.
Yeah, no, it's a blast.
All right. Well, I just want to say um that this has been such a fun conversation.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Thank you. Um,
And thank you for being on. This was a lot of fun.
yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much. Like sometimes I don't know. My brain kind of goes in a lot of different directions sometimes. So I hope I was some semi-coherent.
No, you're good. You're good. Me too. Literally, yeah. You were great. You were great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So
All
and the
right.
cat and the cats were relatively behaved. Only got a
I
few.
think they were great. They did
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you everyone so much for watching, so much for listening. Thank you, Tom, for being here with us today. And I will see everybody next week. Bye, guys.